Hi, this is Hunter from Fulton Music Lessons, and today's lesson is going to focus on how to make a major scale and what major scales tell us. Okay, so here you can see the 12 notes of the musical alphabet below. Most of them get a sharp and a flat, except for the B and the E notes, which can easily be seen on a piano as the missing black key between the B and C notes and the E and the F notes. Okay, so now that you're familiar with all of the notes of the musical alphabet, keep them in mind as we go forward because we're going to use a little trick with them to get to know how to make any major scale. Okay, but before we can learn this little trick, we're going to need to understand what a whole tone is and what a semitone is. Okay, let's bring the musical alphabet back up, and what we're going to see is that a whole tone is a jump between two notes and a semitone is a jump between one note. So some examples of this would be from A to A sharp or A to B flat, that would be one jump, so that would be a semitone, versus A to B, that would be two jumps, so that would be a whole tone. If we went from B to C, that would only be one jump, so that would be a semitone, versus going from B to C sharp or D flat, that would be jumping two notes, so that would be a whole tone. Okay, so on the guitar, jumping over two frets would be a whole tone, and jumping over one fret would be a semitone. Okay, so the tone pattern to learning any major scale is whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone. Now let's use A major as an example to start with. Okay, so before we get started, remember that two frets is a whole tone and one fret is a semitone. Now we're going to be doing the A major scale, so let's start on the A string or the fifth string. Okay, so we start on the note of A or fret 0, and we're going to want to jump a whole tone or two frets. So we're going to go from 0 to 2 or A to B. Then we do another whole tone jump to fret 4. Then we do from fret 4 to 5 as our semitone jump, or our C sharp to our D. And now we have three consecutive whole tones, so we're going to go from 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 11, and to finish off the scale we have one more semitone, which brings us from fret 11 to 12. So the whole major scale together sounds like. And if you would rather condense that scale and play it on a few strings instead of just one, here's what that looks like. And a really great exercise is playing both of those scales together back to back. Okay, now that you understand the tone patterns to making major scales, let's see if you can do one on your own. So for your example, see if you can find the 8 notes as part of the C major scale. So your first note is going to be C major, and then follow your tone pattern to see if you can get the rest of the notes that are part of that scale. So press pause here, I'll give you a minute, and then come back for the answers. Okay, so I'll pull up the musical alphabet, and what you'll see below are the notes that are part of the C major scale. And you should have gotten C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And if you look below, that is how I got those answers, following the tone patterns. Okay, now let's look at the C major scale on the guitar neck. And since I don't have any of my strings tuned to C, I'm going to have to find a note on one of the frets that is C. So I'm going to use the B string or string number 2, and I'm going to start on fret 1, which would be my C note. All right, so I'm on fret 1 of the B string, which is my C. And for my C major scale, I'm going to jump a whole tone over. So I'm going to want to go from 1 to 3. And then another whole tone, a semitone, and then 3 whole tones. And then one last semitone for my scale. And then here is how I can play the C major scale on multiple strings instead of just one. And then if you put both of those back to back, a great scale exercise would be. Okay, so now that you understand how to make your major scales using the tone patterns, we're going to take the next step and learn actually what major scales tell us about chords that we're allowed to use within a key signature. Okay, so as we know, there are 8 notes within the major scale, and the order of these notes are going to tell us whether the chord is a major or a minor within that key signature. So the first note of the scale is going to be your major chord. The second and third notes are going to be minor chords. The fourth and the fifth note are going to be major chords. The sixth note is going to be your relative minor chord. And the seventh note is going to be your diminished chord. Okay, so we've used two major scales so far with the A major and the C major. And using this chord information, now let's determine what chords we're allowed to play within those respective key signatures. Let's start with A major. Okay, so the notes within the A major scale are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp. Now using the chord orders from our scales, now we know that the chords within A major would be A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished. Okay, and if we move over to C major, we know the notes in C major scale are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And the chord patterns tell us that the chords within this major scale would be C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. This is really helpful for songwriters or for players, and if you're looking for a little bit of an easier way and a faster way to understand what chords can go within the key signatures, check out my video on the Circle of Keys Explained. Please comment any questions you have or topics that you want me to cover, and thank you for watching.